Brian.
Hello, Rachel.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat, Rachel. Everything's popping off in the world.
Okay.
Well, I'll be okay. All of the things aside, I'm on the edge of my seat because we had an episode of The Expanse today.
Yes.
That had Brian George in it.
Yes.
And I love Brian George, and so I can't wait to get into this because of what I call the George factor. So how about you? How are you going overall?
Pretty good.
Just pretty good?
Yep, just pretty good.
So what are we doing here today? I mentioned The Expanse. We're talking about it. Is this a Brian George podcast? The actor who's from everywhere in the world. Guys, go down a rabbit hole of looking up Brian George's life. The guy's everywhere. He's everywhere. Born in Jerusalem.
He's been everywhere, man. He's been everywhere.
He's been everywhere. He's played everything. God love him. He so good. But what are we doing here? What's this podcast? I've got a microphone, so I'm assuming we're a podcast. Or are we calling for an SOS? Please save us. We're stuck in a bunker, and I don't know how to get out. All I have is Sci-Fi TV to keep me company.
No, we're not currently watching Discovery.
That's not to keep me company. That's for torture.
Yeah, no. I'm not trapped in a bunker with you forcing me to watch Star Trek Discovery. This time you're making me watch The Expanse.
I'm making me watch it too.
Yes, and we've both never seen it before. And we are the only podcast that brings the yum perspective to The Expanse. Plenty of other people talk about it, but none bring the yum perspective or the yum energy like we do.
What's yum in reference to? For those who are new and need to be caught up a bit, we have some new people to this
in reference to Star Trek Discovery, where an individual who was on set was paid to say the line yum, and she decided to sexily flip her hair and lick her lips as part of that line delivery. And that was her response to being asked if she was keen to go murder somebody.
What's really brilliant about the line is some people may say, that doesn't sound that bad. That sounds a bit like campy fun. And that has its place. For instance, this particular episode of The Expanse had some humor that could have actually used yum in it, and it would have been in place. Why it's so striking to us is it's so out of place, out of nowhere, completely random in Star Trek Discovery, a show, especially in Season 2, that could be best described as a tonal nightmare. And so when that happened, it inspired us. And so we're here podcasting, we're watching episodes of science fiction television, one episode at a time. We've done Star Trek Discovery, we've done Babylon 5, we've done Space Above and Beyond. And here for our patrons first, that's right, if you're listening to this on the main feed, you can head over to our Patreon and hear our thoughts on The Expanse beforehand, before it gets up onto the main feed. By the time you hear this, we're pretty far through the show, so come on over to our Patreon so you can support us and hear what we have to say about this and a whole plethora of other things. Now,
Must be like 4 bucket loads.
Must be like 5 bucket loads worth of content. And full disclosure, I've only seen the first 6 or 7 episodes of The Expanse when they first aired, and I will be honest with you right now, none of it has stuck with me. So when I'm rewatching it today, all of this is new. I was surprised. I was on the edge of my seat. I was going, this completely. Only some things have stuck with me, and they were mainly from the first episode. But here we are, Rachel. We're on the 3rd episode of this. So could you please tell us what it is all about? And what's the title again?
Holden and crew are taken prisoner aboard the Martian Navy flagship, the Donegal, and are forced to turn on one another. Miller contends with riots on Ceres. He connects Julie to the mysterious derelict ship, the Scopuli. Avasalara engages in a nasty game of politics with an old friend.
Let's give some quick fire thoughts on this particular one. I'll go first. I thought this was a major improvement over the last 2 episodes. It is a better understanding of how to tell a story and let the momentum of the story bolster and inform us on character. If I have to give it a major weakness, if there's a sticking point to me, and this is one where I understand why it's like this, and it makes sense, and I enjoy it nonetheless. I didn't need 3 plots going on. This was one where I really could have lived with an A-B plot structure to it, mainly having Holden and crew and Miller's side of it. I loved what was going on with the UN, and it is central to the story as well, but there was just an element of I want more of, I want these stories to breathe a little longer. I want more scenes dedicated to the interrogations and to what Miller's going on in his case, and just a little bit more of time spent on those. Even though I love what's going on with Christian, I was looking at it going, you are the thing getting in the way of the other 2 stories right now in terms of me being able to connect more fully to them.
Interesting. I'm finding it solid in the 3 storylines approach. I feel like they've got a pretty good balance between the 3 of them. And it's very clear that all of these things are happening at the same time. So they need to be shown at the same point because they're all connected to each other. So it matters that these riots are happening at the same time as her playing politics and him facing interrogation. Like, they're happening on the same day, so they need to be in the same episode.
Oh, it is beautifully structured. That's one of my highest praises for The Expanse out of the gate, is they know how to structure their episodes very well. Maybe it's just myself as a viewer and somebody who has to commentate on TV. I am so comfortable with A-B stories, and so I haven't really had to contend with a show like this where it is A, B, and C all the time.
Yeah,
like,
but
each episode has been very tightly wound in A, B, and C.
I would disagree with what you said before. I don't think they've got the structure of their episodes down pat. I do think that this is an improvement. I do think they have the structure of the stories down pat, which I think is maybe more what you meant.
Yeah, so what are your quickfire thoughts on Remember the Cant?
It was okay. I still don't really care. I do think that this is an improvement. I agree with that. I cared more about what was happening in this episode, but I still don't care about the characters.
Yeah, I can see where their point of view is coming from. I think that they're getting better with the character work, specifically with Holden and his crewmates. But Miller's storyline, and even back at the UN, there's elements where it's lacking for me as well. But they're definitely taking steps in that direction. I think that this is a modern prestige show where the storylines, the emphasis on plot means that the character building has to be woven into that.
Yeah.
While in something like, say, Babylon 5, a series that we've covered extensively, or even Space Above and Beyond, they'll have whole scenes just dedicated to character stuff, and that's the scene. Like, here's a scene of Ivanova being teased by Garibaldi and Sheridan for getting bacon and eggs from a potential love interest, and it's like, that's the scene. It's really funny. Or in Space Above and Beyond, here's a whole scene of Commodore Ross playing the guitar. It's not propelling the story forward, but it's nice character stuff. While this isn't interested in that, and that's kind of like a lot of shows of this era of TV where that stuff has to be woven in and almost justifies propelling story forward or propelling theme forward.
like getting to see dude's feet.
Okay, actor update time. So, Thomas Jane, he's one of the leads. Love Thomas Jane, but he is a foot freak guy, and what I mean by that is he is known in real life as an actor to want to be barefoot at all times, if possible. And so in filming scenes, at Comic-Cons, at interviews, or red carpets, he will most likely be barefoot. And so it is hilarious to me that we're 3 episodes in and 70% of the time we've spent with Miller has been shots of his feet being shoeless. And I've had a good chuckle at that, noticing I'm like, Thomas Jane got to have his bare feet just be here. Brian George has already been mentioned, but God, it was great to see him here. What a perfect casting choice as her husband. I mean, you've seen Brian George in a million things as well.
Is he the yum candidate?
Oh, I found him sexy as hell in this. He has his little mustache, he's drinking wine, and he's worried if it's piss or not, and then it's a joke. And he went out to play cricket, just like how you would expect him to be. But another piece of actor news, we've got Jared Harris here. Delightful to see him. We've been on a Jared Harris kick as of late. We watched Chernobyl a little while ago, and so it was brilliant to see him. I completely forgot that he was in the show at all. Did you know that Jared Harris was in The Expanse?
Yes.
You did?
Yes. I've been waiting for him to appear. He was one of the people that you were like, and this guy's in it too. And I was like, that guy's always quality. He always dies.
Yeah, how long till he dies? Because he always dies in everything. But I actually forgot.
And he's like the leader of a terrorist group. He's not gonna live forever.
No, he will most likely die.
Yeah,
he's played by Jared Harris, and he's in a series.
Yeah.
He usually dies. Will he hang himself?
His characters.
Yeah, they often have miserable deaths, usually suicides.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We'll see how it goes for him.
Like, he's the leader of a terrorist organization, Ryan.
So he'll be fine.
Like, one that everybody wants to seem to destroy.
Mm-hmm. And the other big actor of note that appeared in this episode is Kenneth Welsh, who was the ambassador, Christian's friend, and he was in Star Trek Discovery as well. He was Senatal, who was the previous Trill host to Gray, the admiral that they had to find in the past and get information from. But most notably, he was in Twin Peaks. Mm-hmm. He was Wyndham Earle, and a beloved Canadian character actor, passed away a little while ago, but he is one of those faces, just like with so many of the people here, is if you know Canadian television actors, you'll know this guy. He's been in everything as well. So
Wiggy was back again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wiggy, a.k.a. Lieutenant Nielsen from Star Trek Discovery, she was here too. And note, she wasn't blonde and I didn't recognize her. My brain couldn't recognize a lady unless she's blonde, of course. So they should stick a wig on her head. She is a sex worker after all. Maybe she has some wigs in the back to favor clients. This is a type of show where one of the characters, gets off at a train station and in Dutch it says that it's the red light district. So that's the type of show this is, where, hey, it's self-serious, but there's a little bit of goofiness, too, in there.
Stay calm. And take Koltingonyego to Pochuyeke.
Better. Every time better.
I'm a good teacher.
Let's kick off with the Martians. We meet them, Holden,
they're totally not evil.
You know what? I kept saying this during the episode, and you were like, why are you saying this? I kept saying they're right. You know, these guys are right. The Martians have a point.
I know why you're saying that.
Because they are. By the end of, as the story unfolds, they're right to be like this because they're innocent. They haven't done anything. Seemingly.
Yeah, I would slightly disagree with that. They are innocent. The way that they are going about proving their innocence is dodgy AF.
Yes. Well, but it lines up completely with what we've been given. They are a militaristic group, and this is the flagship. But we have been sprinkled about the Martians. Ooh, what are they going to be like? And they lived up to everything I wanted them to be. I love their uniforms. I love their tech. I love all of these actors just have this certain aura and attitude to them. Even Alex, when he gets back in that uniform, that
His
actor
demeanor
just shifts into this way. And what I really adore about the Martians, unlike with the Belters, is they don't need any wacky accents or haircuts or whatever to tell me what their attitude is like or what their culture is like. All I need to see is how those actors hold themselves physically to get the gist across. When you get into a science fiction series in particular, fantasy as well, there's a lot of minutia that they have to go through to make it make sense. Oh, this is how the world works. This is how our characters fit into the world. This is the economy. Mm-hmm. Whenever I have listened to people talk about The Expanse, especially early stages, it is often about the technology, the politics, and the world. And all of those things are valuable and important, of course. But when you're just somebody coming into a series, you want to know why you should care, why you should be invested. And for us as viewers in particular, it often comes back to characters, themes, and then plot. Yeah. I have often said that I can forgive a bad plot if I have good characters leading me along that journey. And Picard is a great example where that's a series with no characters I like and a story that doesn't make sense, so I hate it very much so. And Discovery is a series that frustrates me because it has had good characters, but it's had all of the other things turned up to 11 in the bad degree. The Expanse for me is slowly allowing the characters to blossom, because even when they get captured by Mars, we have our crew and each one of them getting thrown into their cells, react in a different way that informs us of who they are. And that there, I think, is the key at this moment in time to how they are giving us characterization, which is through action.
Yeah.
Through action.
Which is the way that we want it. We don't want to just be told. We want it to be shown. We want it to be explored. That's what good shows for us do.
When they're getting thrown in their cells, we get Amos, who is Mr. Violent, angry man, and we've been carrying this through, and they just tase him first, which is cool. They had a future taser, and then in their glove, the Martians, they had something to sedate him, and I thought that was a marvelous piece of business there. And just when it comes to Amos in this episode, it's not necessarily giving us more than we already knew from the previous one, other than he has they write humor for him in this one far more. In the previous one, there was some moments of humor, but here there's direct quips and jokes and gags and him being a loudmouth and smack-talking people.
He feels more like a person, like a character, rather than a mouthpiece for necessary dialogue.
And I believe that he's another one of those actors now that I've given more time to the show. I can look at him and say, oh, he's clearly one of the best actors on the show. He is a human.
He's making the most out of it.
He's a human puppy dog. Because when he's with Naomi, his physicality changes almost like a dog whose masters come home from work and they're just happy to see them. He's just this adorable little guy, but then when she's not around, he's this big brute of a man who will kill you.
In danger.
Or when she's in danger. And I really am warming up to him, not just because I jokingly said in the previous episode he wanted to kill Holden, but I like this type of characterization of a guy who's pretty much a psychopath, someone who likes violence and likes hurting people, but he has this cutesy side to him as well that makes it just have a dissonance there, and yet a dissonance that makes me want to see more of it play out in the show, to see how they can keep growing this and what different situations they can apply Amos to as a character and how he'll bounce off of other people. Like, I want to know what he will say to Miller.
Yeah.
I want to see their conversation if they ever get one. Can you imagine those two striking up a word between each other? I think they would get on, honestly.
I think they would be the kind of characters who meet up, have an argument, a punch on, and then they're like, just good. They're like, okay.
And he reminds me, I don't mean this as a joke, but in the animated X-Men series, Wolverine is very serious, and his favorite friend,
I get what you mean.
His favorite person was Morph.
Yeah.
Who was a joker and a quipster and a silly guy, and he's like, Morph was the only person who could make me laugh. And that's him, that's Amos with the doctor guy, because them two actors were really vibing off of each other. Like, they haven't shown us too much of these two, but I got this feeling of, hey, Amos is a psychopath, he's like a nut job or whatever, but like, he has a sense of humor, and he was having a smile or two at some of the crazy things the doctor was going to say. And I just wanted to focus on those two first, because they're the two characters. Amos and the doctor, or medic, Shed, don't get interrogations. And
we don't see their
interrogations. And that's what I mean by, if this was more of an A-B storyline, I reckon we could have seen those. I especially would have loved to have seen Shed's interrogation. It's great to hear about it, but I actually would have liked to have seen it. It could have been like Crichton's interrogation in Red Dwarf when he's having to explain how the crew came back to life. Just this absurd, over-the-top comedic set piece.
And can you tell me when you were created? Can you remember?
2340, sir.
Very good. 2340. Now that's in the future, isn't it?
Yes, sir. I was created after you died.
Lovely, lovely. So, I died, and you were created. And how long would you say I've been dead altogether?
Oh, you're not dead anymore, sir.
Aren't I?
With those two characters, it's not so much about their experience in the interrogation, but their responses to it. So we see that. We see the medic freaking out and admitting that he faked his medical training.
Yeah, he's a crim on the run from some gangsters, and so he's hiding here. Heck, even to your point, he's not even just flipping out like he was about suffocating in the previous episode, but here, he even makes a joke about his interrogation. Like, he treats it like a joke. He's to that point of giddiness and nervousness where it's turned around to being humorous to him. But you were going to say?
And then it's sort of, I guess, like, he's the one that's like, okay, let's just flip on Naomi. And, of course, the puppy dog comes to the defense.
He ain't having it.
Says, no fucking way. They're gonna tell us all this bullshit. We're not gonna play by their rules. We're gonna fight because it's the right thing to do. I will defend my lover. And the other one's like, fuck all of yous.
Yeah.
If it gets me out alive, I'm fucking doing it, bitch.
Yeah. They're turning against each other. I think it's good to note down that I think it's Holden or Alex. Somebody does point out that nobody knows anything about Amos. We don't know anything
about each other.
Well, you get the feeling that through interactions they do, but Amos is this figure who is detached from emotion, so it's hard to read him. And since we didn't see his interrogation, since we didn't see what Mars had on him, he is still left vague to us, the audience, and that's deliberate. That is deliberate. They pointed out in the scene that we, the audience, as well as the characters in the scene, don't know you. we don't know what you are about. We don't know your history. And obviously, I would imagine they're going to slowly give us that in the show. And then Alex, of course, who's quickly rising to be one of my favorite characters, honestly. He's in my top 3 for sure. I think he's number 2. We had a brilliant piece of just unveiling his story when they are taken aboard and the Martians are IDing them. They're just going up to their necks and beeping them, beep, beep, beep. And he has a different sounding beep.
Yep.
And none of the other characters react except for the guy who's scanning him, and he gives him this look of, holy shit. And I knew from that. I knew immediately.
I know what I mean. I was like, oh, he's Martian.
But I didn't realize. I mean, I knew he was Martian, but I guess I didn't realize straight off the bat what his story was going to be in terms of he was previously a Martian soldier or somebody who served. And so when we get that scene where Holden, after his interrogation, opens up the door and there's Alex in a full uniform zipping it up, I had this moment of, oh, okay, you're this level. And I did, and I'm still not too sure. I had this thing of, oh, he's selling them out, huh? He's selling them out. And he gives his backstory. And what's his backstory, Rachel? And do you believe it?
He ran with the Martian Navy for 20 years.
And then he was honorably discharged, and now he went off into space to do what he's doing now. Do you believe that?
Yes and no. I think that there's more to it, but I think he ended up with an honorable discharge. I think some shady shit is behind that. I don't think it's going to be like he served in the General Navy for 20 years and he just left. Because anybody who serves that long, I feel like would stay if they could.
Yeah.
Or would have left earlier. Like,
maybe a traumatic event happened.
Or there's going to be maybe additional information given about his rank as well.
Yeah, I'm curious of how high ranking he was and what exactly he got up to in the past, because Earth and Mars have their military forces and they've been in a Cold War for a very long time, but has there ever been like an out-and-out conflict between the two, or has it always been like this? I'm a bit shady on that. Outside of having to deal with maybe perhaps very minor skirmishes and the OPA's shenanigans, what does 20 years in the Martian Navy actually look like other than flying in a ship, guarding your borders and looking angry while you do it? You know what I'm saying by that? Like, what type of thing could make him leave this line of work and go into where he is now? Because I'm thinking, oh, maybe he had like some traumatic war event, but I'm like, what war?
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah, my theory, because TV shows that he's going to be ex-special ops in some way and or have a powerful family, and he tried to walk away from that, and that's how he got the honorable discharge.
I'm curious of what his background is, but what did you think about how his character changed during this story? Because he's been the affable kind of funny guy, really relaxed pilot who talks to the ship and listens to music, and now he's wearing the uniform and he's trying to throw protocols and regiment these guys, and he even turns around and has real vitriol towards Holden. Like, he takes everything Mars tells him at face value and understands it as truth. And he turns on Holden because he got dishonorably discharged, which is the ultimate sin of an officer in his eyes. Like, I thought that was a really great dramatic turn. And it wasn't even spent on, like, they didn't spend too much time on it. But again, that actor just really knows how to deliver that, where he just like, you got dishonorably discharged, like I got honorably discharged, don't you fucking talk to me. What did you think about just Alex's characterization having been flipped around here?
Yeah, I kind of appreciate it, the way that the actor has embodied that shift as well as what is being said. It's a very interesting dynamic to play with.
So you're helping them. Whoa there, Chief. Settle down. They let me clean up out of respect. Respect? Yeah, you see, I served. And I was honorably discharged. There's a hell of a lot more than I can say about you, cowboy.
We get to know, well, we don't get to know, but we have some ideas of Naomi's story, because the real turning of the screw here in terms of paranoia, in terms of breaking them down, is really about Naomi.
They want them all to flip on Naomi. Specifically Holden. They want Holden to do an announcement.
Because he was the one who sent out the announcement saying that Mars had blown up the Canterbury. So they need him to be a face to legitimize that Mars is innocent. That's another reason, actually, I like the Martian approach to what they're doing here, because
it's very logical. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that it's
good?
Morally good.
No, but the logic there is, who cares about doing the morally good thing? If we can prevent a war, we'll do what we have to.
If us manipulating this situation and violating like these like 5 people's human rights, but it stops us from going to war and it saves millions of lives, it's justified.
We see in the UN story the similar thought process of, hey, if I screw over one person or just a couple of people to stop a greater evil from happening, then it's all worth it. I win at any cost. And this is how the Martians are approaching it, because with Naomi, she could be OPA. She could be OPA. She has the background. She has the whereabouts. She has the knowledge. She has expertise that is far beyond what she should be. So why is she here?
But almost everybody else on the Canterbury is also like that, is overqualified to be on a rust bucket like the Canterbury. So it's not that unusual in the context, because a lot of the people in the crew are trying to build up their lives or build new ones or run away from something. And that's why they're all there.
Yeah.
Like Holden's running away from something. So is Naomi. So was the girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that shocking that she's got these qualifications. It's just like, well, if you look at Holden's experience, it doesn't make sense for him to be there either.
And they also use that to turn everyone against each other. That's the thing about interrogations like this. Mm-hmm. They're in here with an agenda. Their agenda is, we need to make these people flip their testimonies to support us. And so the easy candidate is Naomi to be the one to pin it all on. She's a belter. She's from this area. She calls them out on that. It's just plain simple bigotry at its core, but they're using it because it's the easiest option. Because what are they going to do? They're going to say that, Alex is the OPA guy? That would reflect badly on Mars because he's a former officer. Even though, realistically, why couldn't he be? he's a high-ranking, or at least somebody with respect, who's now a ice hauler pilot. Like, they don't grill him about that, it doesn't seem, but they're grilling her about her qualifications, about her background, and why she here doing this. And it's like, the only reason is
it's to their advantage.
You fit the bill to be someone to blame. And if we use you like this, it will be easy for them to turn against you, and we can solve this.
It's also a process of elimination, right? It's just like, well, we can't let it be Alex because he has an association with Mars.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense to pin it on him. We need Holden to be the one that says it.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be him, because then it'll just look like we're forcing him to do it.
Also, he's a former Earth officer, and we don't want to get Earth into bad water here.
So it's too risky. It doesn't work. The medic, if they check into him, he's already disreputable.
And incompetent. He's too incompetent to do any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And he has ties to Earth, not ties to the belt, because they want to pin it on the belt so that it takes away from the tension between Earth and Mars. And so they're only left with Naomi, and I think it's a really skillful thing that the script does, that it gives you all of that information without exposition dumps.
I really enjoyed how they did that. I thought that this was... We see the Expanse is improving upon itself as it goes along. It's getting cleaner with giving us information. It's getting cleaner with giving us themes, ideas, world building, and characters, motivations. And it's just so much more palatable to me. And we're only 3 episodes in, and this is the first season, which is often the dry season for these type of shows.
Yeah.
Where Holden is this guy that we get a whole bunch of information about him, and I actually found it intriguing. I've given Holden a lot of shit, but I found this intriguing. He's what would you say? He's an IVF baby. He's a genetically engineered guy. He says like he has all of his different parents. This one gestated him. He has this makeup. Like, I don't know the extent that they're playing with that.
Tax write-off.
Right? Even then, his existence is just like a sham of an existence. He
doesn't... I think, for me, it adds to the fact that Holden doesn't belong anywhere or to anyone.
That's a great way to look at it, because, he served in the Earth military, got kicked out because he tried to punch a superior officer. I like that. He corrects him. Hey, it was an attempt. I missed and I broke my hand.
On the
bulkhead. So please, let's get the facts right if we're going to lay them out on the table here. And I've given him some crap for being protagonist man, and it's still here. He's protagonist man. Of course he has this backstory. Of course he used to be in the military, and
he was a young
hotshot kind of guy. How old is he? Like, I can't tell with this guy, because he does have a baby face, even though he has facial hair, which usually makes you a bit older. I can't, I'll give it to this actor. He throws me for a loop because 30s? Okay. He throws me for a loop, this guy, because when he's got, like, his usual outfit on, he looks like a scrawny guy. Like, he's very lean and kind of lanky. But then when we see him with his shirt off, he's fucking ripped and jacked, and he looks like he could beat you up in a real fight. But here, when you see him in, like, a room like this, I'm like, I'll leave this scrawny smart mouth alone. He's just a doofus. You can't grill him on anything. And I'm just finding my way with him. I'm a bit more warm to him, like you were last episode, where it's like, look, I want to give him a chance, and him being up in arms about Naomi potentially being OPA, I thought was well played. And how she gave him that look of, hey, mister, don't you get a high and mighty on me. You're the reason we're here, by the way. Like, she didn't have to say that. It's just that information is already known, and that really put him in his place. I'm a sucker for seeing Holden get put in his place. And he steps up to the occasion.
He's an odd character because this isn't an unusual configuration for a character because it creates a lot of internal conflict. And that sort of, he has this dichotomy within himself of being righteous and wanting to be valueless.
Mm-hmm. It's the Mal Reynolds character, where they want to come across as devil may care, apathetic. Hey, golly gee, I don't want to get involved too heavily. But they get overwhelmed by their moral... Hell, Mal Reynolds used to be a soldier too. And they get overwhelmed by their moral responsibility and their virtuousness, even though they pretend like they don't have it. So that's why at the end, Holden sees all of this spinning out of control and says, okay, take me in, guys. I'll talk to the captain and I'll just admit to whatever you want. I'll just sign over it all and see what the situation is at hand, and we can get this wrapped up, because that's the type of character mold he is. Like, do you think that's a factor into why Holden isn't connecting with you? Because a lot of sci-fi leads do have that golly gee, I don't want to get involved. I'm just a handsome rogue, but really, I have morals.
I have a heart of gold. But you just have to get to know me. I want to hide it because it's a vulnerability.
You stopped me from chasing down the ship that killed the Cant. Why?
Because you were being a reckless idiot.
Yeah? Or is it because they were friends of yours?
Watch your mouth.
And you? No one knows anything about you, except you do whatever she says.
So what was my big plan, huh? To sit on a shit bucket like the Camp for 5 years while all of this got set up?
Holden gets dragged aboard to where the captain is, and she just lays it out. We didn't fire on you. Why are you telling everyone that we did this to you? How could you say that? What's really happening is some mysterious ship that's been following us since we took you aboard clearly did it.
But take our word for it.
She shows him a little graph that has it there. Like, don't you see that?
Oh.
She could be gaslighting him.
Brian, you know that graphs can be fake, right?
Faked?
Especially in the future.
No, but what is brilliant about this is we know it's true because of what's going on with Earth. But Holden doesn't know that. And he's like you, where he is in disbelief. He's not too sure what to believe. And he even spins it around of being like, well, why wouldn't it be you guys? Like, from what I saw, from what we've gathered, it could easily be you. But the thing is, the captain still wants to pin it on the OPA and pin it on Naomi.
I do think that Mars would have just killed them if he hadn't sent out that message. I do believe that.
You do? It's kind of a hard thing to say because they're reacting so negatively towards these guys because they sent out this message, because this crew standing on their ship sent out a message to the entire galaxy saying Mars has basically declared war on the belt, and Mars is sitting here with their hands tied going, what the fuck? We didn't do that. And we even see how it impacts the people on Ceres where they're rioting and attacking the Mars stuff here. So that's what I really liked about
it has caused a substantial level of distress and distrust. But just because of the way that Mars operates, they don't feel like the kind that take prisoners, that do rescue missions. It just doesn't feel like something that they would do.
I just think that I'm not there 100% yet because they haven't shown that enough, but they're definitely a hyper-militarized group. They're definitely a Russia. They're definitely a China. They're definitely a North Korea type where it's like, you fuck with us and we will
Absolutely.
royally destroy you.
But it's also, if you have no value to us, your life has no value. That's an assumption that I'm making. But now knowing that Alex is a Martian, if they didn't send the message, he may have been able to convince them to leave them alone. But also because Mars is so isolated, I have trouble believing that they would just drop them off at Ceres.
They also are just throughout these 3 episodes, Mars has been spat in the face several times by each faction, I should say. The OPA are clearly using them, or at least they believe they're being used as ruse by the OPA. Earth, in the meantime, has ruffled their feathers and made them accidentally reveal state secrets and secret weapons places. And the Belt, they've got these guys right here who've screwed them over, so they're up in arms about it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the revelation that is here when the captain talks to Holden about this ship that's chasing them, as well as it paired up with what's going on Earth, how do you feel about this ship is not a Mars stealth ship? How do you feel about just that reveal in the story? Because we were debating this in previous discussions about if this is Mars or not.
Yeah. I don't have an answer because I don't have an answer. I don't really know what I think because everything's still up in the air. I am intrigued to see how long it takes to get an answer of whose ship is this. Is it going to be in a couple of episodes, or is it going to be across into like the next season or more of who has this, who's capable of this, and what do they want? Because everybody has their own grift happening.
They are definitely hammering in the nails that the OPA is behind all of this. Mars is hammering that in, Earth is doing so, and same with Ceres. It's very much tightening on the notion Mars isn't it, Earth isn't it, and so it must be the OPA. And as somebody who has just watched television before, that gives me some theories as to what could be going on. Most likely it isn't the OPA, because if the show's telling you in episode 3 it is the OPA without actually specifically giving us evidence of such, I raise my eyebrows and go, okay. It's probably someone else then.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even stop to think about that. I just went, it's going to be a fourth group.
Or maybe something else that we have already seen but haven't considered. And so I just wanted to mention that because the show clearly is grabbing us by the nose and trying to lead us down a certain path so that they can surprise us or reward us as well.
I do appreciate that though lots of things have changed, Earth is a flooded wasteland. The UN as an organization is still anti-war.
Yeah.
They don't want a war. Not for the idealistic reasons that the modern UN would say that they don't want war.
Thank you.
But they still acknowledge that peace, even if it isn't genuine peace, it's just a Cold War, is better than an out-and-out conflict.
You could argue it's still like the modern UN in terms of bureaucratic, administrative distance from real-life harm, where all of this terrible stuff is going on out there at the Belt. We really wish we could do something about that.
But
Maybe
that's
send
the
a care
belt.
package. Man, we really can't get that forward here. I mean,
It's too much to try and transport. Like, we have this water, but maybe it's not safe water, so we would have to do all of these things to it and maybe freeze it.
work.
Oh.
That's work. And who wants to do that?
We don't have the money for that.
There's a budget. And the chairman, the secretary general just can't shift those things around. We've got to worry about what's happening on the moon.
That's beyond our control.
And they got me because after the previous episode, and then it being revealed at the start of this one that Holden's message did get out to the rest of the universe, I thought that they were going to lean into more of an overt offensive position against Mars. I really thought that. I thought, okay, they've shown us that the UN is this group in the show.
What they did is more interesting.
What they did is more interesting and more honest as well, because you have the military come in and just say, there's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence to support any type of military maneuver. It would be foolish to go off of what we have. And we don't want to be fools, and we don't want to start a war and make us look like the bad guys and to lose lives. And that makes sense. And the other guy, Aaron Wright, I wanted to call him Taka, he's just standing there going, okay, makes sense. And Christian is the one who's made to look like the villainous character, the warmonger, but also they've positioned her as our point of view character where there's a mixture of she looks like that, but also we understand that perhaps she's the woman who sees the obvious things going on that the UN is closing their eyes to.
It feels like she's somebody who sees not the big picture that the UN wants to see, but she sees the whole board.
She's definitely somebody who comes across as the woman who sees what's really going on, and the others aren't attuned to that. And so they must listen to her. They must do it her way. And so when they say, we're not going to do it your way, Christian, we're not going to do it like that. We're going to sit back and evaluate what's going on. Perhaps even open up a dialogue with Mars, perhaps. Wouldn't that be a crazy thing to do? And instead of going into this with guns blazing and even saying to Mars, we know this stuff and we're angry with you, we're going to be politicians. We're going to be calm and collected and keep our cards close to our chest and to see what happens. And that there was gold to me. I really could watch this as a show. That part.
So much your thing, it's ridiculous.
Sirius is our station, the key to the belt. With those resources, Mars could finally cut the cord to Earth.
If you want a war with Mars, this will get you one. But it's my soldiers that will end up dying for it.
Well, the Secretary General wants a plan of action, Admiral.
And it can't be. Let's just sit and wait.
Unless we have proof, that's exactly what we should be doing.
What I was thinking about when before we sat down to record this was how each story is complementing each other. So Mars is trying to prevent a war. So they are manipulating this crew of people to stop this from happening. Christian wants to she actually wants to seemingly start a war, but she also wants to stop a war. She wants to make sure this gets cut off before anything happens. So she manipulates an old friend and a powerful person and ruins his life to do this. And then Miller, he is actually interacting with someone who wants to start a war. Like, each one of them is complementing each other.
And also on the rest of the station, we have them trying to control a group of people. There's the riots as well, where they're trying to calm down this escalating situation.
It was a real thing that tied Remember the Cant together for me was how each one of the things we're cutting away to was commenting on the previous one in such a way. And that, to me, we talk about serialized stories, right? We talk about how there's a lack of that, a self-contained nature or a beginning, middle, and end. And I really do think that Remember the Cant has the best of both worlds when it comes to this, where it's clearly building up the tension, laying out the world, telling us about things to come, and getting us intrigued to watch more. But there was a real beginning, middle, and end to this one.
Yes.
There was a real sense of, here is us as writers, this is what we want to do and Remember the Cant. These are the themes, these are the character beats, these are the arcs, these are the messages, and we're going to do it in the 45 minutes. Where, honestly, I could have just watched this one on its own, and I could sit back and go, that was a great episode of a little science fiction show, without having to have that asterisk next to it of, I can't say that yet until I've watched the full season, which has been the complaint we have had with the previous 2 episodes, where it's like, they're good episodes in this nebulous, it's part of a larger story way. But this one here, I think it really nails it in terms of just letting me go, no, that is a solid piece of television. And when it comes to Christian's story, she is a part of that factor of joy for me, where we get to see her do the political wheeling and dealing and pretend to be a human being, because every single moment she has of coming across like a real person, like a nice person, a human being with empathy she has towards this old friend of hers, it will quickly, at the end of it, there will just be an expression on her face or body language or the way she turns or a certain phrase she uses where you go, oh, she's playing him. She's playing him, and she's playing a version of a person so that she can get what she wants or she can ascertain information. What do you think about Christian in this episode? Because they are evolving her as a character, and they do want to have it that way of, she's a person, but she's always got an angle to play.
It's fascinating, and I don't feel like I can add much more to what you just said, because it's just like, yep, yeah, she is all of those things, and she is a character that I am very intently watching.
Could you go into some more detail about what she is getting up to in this episode and some of the scenes, some of the moments that you liked when it came to her?
Well, we've touched on the meeting that she has with not Taka.
Ehrenreich?
Ehrenreich, that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll think of him as that. And then the sort of admiral that's there, the army dude. It's just like, no, I'm not setting people off to die because you have a hunch, basically. That was a very strong scene for me because it does show those different perspectives. But I think the highlight is the "you'll do anything to win" monologue from the
ambassador,
the Martian ambassador, who's now been banned from Mars.
He has to sell his house. Him and his partner, him and his husband have to sell their house. She ruined their lives because, yeah, her storyline is, oh, I'll say to this guy who I know personally, I'll slip him the information the UN doesn't want out there, knowing that this guy is a sentimentalist, knowing that this guy is a lover of Mars, has an appreciation for them, knowing that he is that, he'll leak it back to Mars, and we can monitor them, we can track them, and we can see what they're really hiding. she has this veneer of, oh, I'm a lovely old friend. Don't you remember these wonderful times? Look, I brought you a bottle of wine. Remember your bottle of wine? Let's have a dinner at my house. And you and your husband your husband and mine can go out and play a game of cricket.
Because I like your husband more than I like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she brings the wine at the end, like, here
you go. It was worth it.
I royally screwed you over and I've destroyed your life, but here's some wine.
And we stopped a war, perhaps. And isn't that worth it in the end? And what a piece of shit.
Yeah, but the show is doing a lot with the idea of the cost to the individual compared to the cost to the community.
Yeah, especially this one. Especially hers.
Yeah, but even on a grander scale, the cost of the belt as an individual part of humanity compared to the cost of humanity as a whole.
With Miller, with Christian, and even to a certain extent Holden, they obviously care about their people, where they're from, but they're all characters who are at a distance, at this certain plane of existence where they are so detached from that at the same time, where clearly Christian has this really well-rounded, understandable view for the audience of what she stands for and how she really wants to protect Earth, but she does it in ways where he says it. You are dangerous. You are frightening. You will do anything it takes to win. And that's what got your father killed. And I don't want to play this game anymore.
I won't play with you again.
I won't play with you. And she said it like, oh, perhaps this could have stopped a war. You, Christian, doing this could have made a war happen in the first place. It was a gamble.
Yeah. You just wanted the answer. You didn't want to have to wait.
And during that scene where the UN is finding out about Mars's secret military hubs, that they have a few more than they originally knew of, she turns around and is very cocky about how this was all her. She takes credit for it. Oh, I did this. She just says straight to their faces, I did the opposite of what you wanted, but it worked out. That's a part of why she did it too, is this sense of this massive ego, this person who must be right, who must have their actions validated, because
she never has admitted that she's wrong. Not when she got reprimanded for
torturing that guy. Yeah.
Keeping the courier out of the tank. Him dying on the way to the lunar base.
Mm-hmm.
Every single decision, including fucking over her friend. Or, like, somebody who thought
they were friends.
They were friends. Is defendable in her eyes.
Mm-hmm. Everything has a justification and a reasoning behind it, but
and therefore it is acceptable. I judged it. My judgment is infallible. Thus, my theory, because I am justified and I justified it.
Mm-hmm.
It must be justified. There's a sort of circular logic to it of, I'm doing this because of my principles. My principles say that this is okay, so it's okay that I do it.
It just feeds in on itself. He breaks it down where she watched them play the game. She was lurking. She was watching. She never participated. And then when she did, even though she had studied it and she knows how it all works, she flipped it into her own game where she could win.
Yep.
and outdo everybody. And
that
she gambles.
Anecdote was perfect.
What really makes the arc here is she thinks she's infallible. She thinks that she's this perfect being with great judgment and people should listen to her. Not just listen, but appreciate her. He says no and walks off, and she's left there defeated in the end. She's left there alone. She's left there realizing just for a moment what she did was wrong. That may not stop her in the series to come, but in terms of this episode, she's left on a sour note as a character. She's left there to ruminate on what she's done.
I was terrified for you. I didn't know why. And now I do. You will do anything to win, just like your father. That's what got him killed. I won't play with you. Ever again.
Series is falling apart due to the revelation that the people that were bringing them water has been destroyed, that the Cant has been shot at and blown out of the sky by Mars. And we see throughout the 45 minutes or so, slowly but surely, the society turned violent. And even though it was not the strictest emphasis of the episode, I thought they actually did this really well.
Yep.
You see the police at the beginning getting organized for how this is going to spin out of control. There's this stress to all of the police.
We need to control, but we can't aggravate.
And you're going to be teamed up with this person. You're going to work these shifts. You're going to do these things. Havelock, who's a character that sucks, he at the beginning we find out is not seeing this sex worker for anything nefarious, because of course not. He's a good boy.
Seeing her for sex work as a sex worker for sex would not be nefarious either.
I thought he had, in my discussion last episode, I thought he was doing something criminal with her.
Yeah.
I thought he was doing something more duplicitous or something on the sly, but no, what he's doing is because he's a good boy. But this does relate to the episode.
He's trying to learn the Belter language.
He's trying to learn the Belter language to pacify, to alleviate, and that's the thing is, it's useless.
So he can bridge the gap between them and
have a beautiful understanding. The Gene Roddenberry future of we can talk it out. We can be friends. If we can just if I learn your culture and you learn mine, then we'll be one. Won't it be great if we're unified?
Oh, yeah. It's even greater that he gets stabbed through the chest.
And left on a wall.
But
he's impaled.
He's impaled. But people can lose a limb and survive.
Yeah, but it's like right in the center of his chest. It's just left there to hang.
Yeah. So we're assuming that he's dead.
Oh, I hope so. He sucks. Doesn't he suck? Isn't he like the worst character in the show? As much as shit I give Holden, at least I can say Holden's a character.
Yeah.
This guy's just like he's like an NPC. Like, is he, okay, real talk. Is he there just so Miller has someone to talk to?
Yes. Yes.
Well, the lady's there too, and she's a better character.
Yeah, but
she's not a point of view character.
No, and we needed an Earther out on the belt.
Yeah, that is very much it. He is there to help guide us into the world. And look, if he dies here, it actually is very cynical.
Yep.
Because, he was here for the first 3 or 4 episodes of the show.
Very practical.
Yeah, but very mechanical. Of, we need a character to use as this function, and when that function is no longer needed, throw them away because they served their purpose. It really is a reminder that as well as this show is getting with developing its world and characters, there are some elements that are clearly just plug and play. And look, egg will be on my face if this guy becomes like a major recurring character and he becomes fleshed out. I'll admit to my egg on the face there, but at this moment, we're left to think that he's dead. And I'm sitting there going, oh, that would actually make sense if he died right now, because he's done. He helped us understand who Miller is and what Sirius Station is, and now he's done. We don't need him anymore.
Especially by contrast.
Yeah. By contrast, he's naive and innocent, and the world is harsh and cruel. We get it. Where are you with Miller right now? How do you feel about him as a character? Because you and I have been giving him thumbs down a lot.
It's still a thumbs down.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Could you explain why he's not working? Because they give him a lot to do in the episode.
Yes. And he's the character that I care about the least. I'm like, if you die, somebody else will just replace you.
Okay, you find him an expendable character. Kind of like how I said about Havelock's this expendable guy. Like, once you serve your function, they can get rid of you and I won't miss you or think about you in the most grandiose way.
Not exactly. Like, he has a unique skill set, but he still feels a bit plug and play of it's the cop that's dirty but gets the job done. So it doesn't feel like it would be that hard to write another character that was like that and would fill that spot if something happened to him. He doesn't feel as unique as Christian does.
Or Naomi or Amos. Yeah.
Like, Holden is a bit like that. Miller is even more lacking in that area, I mean.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about it. I liked it a lot more than last episode because Miller was given an actual plot worth watching this time. It was back to the Julie Mao case. It was boosted by what happened with the scopuli and how that information has got out.
Pushed forward. And he
has a motivation now to do the case rather than just pretty girl gone missing. Now he has a motivation of they've taken the case away. Now I want to do the case and I'm going to shaft my responsibilities to do it. I'm playing a dangerous game. Literally, everyone around me is fighting each other and I don't care because I'm on the case. That there is a better way to play the character than what they were doing in the previous 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I don't care about him either when I think about him. But when I watch the episode, I'm invested, and it's down to that performance. I think Thomas Jane is a captivating screen presence. He knows how to play this role with ease. There's never any doubt that he is this guy to me.
No, he embodies the character as an actor. But I still just don't care about the character.
That's it. He's a character where I need more from the writing. It's not the performance, it's the writing here. And he's one that to me is he's better to
getting
watch.
A little bit better each episode the more we see him interact with the world. But it still falls on cliches.
Trappings of the genre of detective and noir.
Smashing the speaker?
Yeah,
I was like, oh God, come on.
The moments I liked from him were the smaller touches, such as him leaving his shift and the female cop is like, okay, you go do this thing or whatever, and he just gives like a wave to her, like he's walking away, he doesn't even look at her and gives her like this jovial little bye-bye, I'm off now.
Cover me for an hour. And he just doesn't go back.
Yeah, he's gone for the rest of the day pretty much. Or when the guy, what was it, threw a bottle or something towards her and then ran off and she's like, what, you're not going to get after him? It's like, not my case. Yours. And just those are the moments that I warm to him. But he's a character that, like I say, the best way to describe him is I enjoy him when I'm watching the show, but not outside of that. Like, I don't want to really talk about him. I don't really want to talk about his plot. I don't really want to think about it. I don't really want to think about it outside of me watching the show because, as you say, it is very standard. Mm-hmm. It is very, you know what this is. Mm-hmm. Since the inception of television, this character has existed. Since the beginning of TV, we've had the guy with the hat walking around asking questions and slowly stumbling.
Detective?
Silent. What? Look, if he was...
But secretly has a heart?
He needs to be funnier. That's the thing. Humphrey Bogart as Sam Spade is really funny. He has so many great one-liners. He slaps Peter Lorre. It's really funny. Or Idris Elba as Luther. Really funny, like amusing. And Miller just doesn't have any humor to him. Really, it's not really there.
It's very telling that the things that you mentioned that you liked were the funny bits.
I don't suss at nothing. I don't suss at that opiate tat on your forearm there either. Is that just part of your plumage? Why don't you look around? See what you can find. For me.
He is described by Anderson Dawes, the head of the OPA. And again, Miller's plot out of the three is the most labored when it comes to hitting us with obvious messaging and themes. And it's better in this one than it was in the last, but it's still an issue. You have Anderson Dawes says what he is. Underneath that silly hat of yours, there's a belter crying out to be free. That's his character. That's Miller's character. We got it. We know this. He's a guy that wants, who pretends, who wears the image of an earther, the better people. But underneath it, he's the man who's a belter, who wants freedom, who wants his people to be equal, and this is his way of doing that.
Or
There's
at
an
least
inner conflict.
He wants a piece of it. He wants to be like them. Mm-hmm. But he knows that he's not. He knows that he doesn't belong there.
So he puts on the hat. He puts on the suit. He puts on this voice to distance himself from his own heart. And I got it. Every detective has their sad sack story like that. And they work. I like detective stories. I like noirs. I like these things, but it's just something about Miller's side of this is just the writers struggle to really communicate this with subtlety. There is nuances, though, and there is brilliance in Miller's story. Like I said, I did actually enjoy this. I wanted more time dedicated to it because once he is cracking onto the case and he's busting heads and he meets the OPA, I was in.
What does OPA stand for?
I don't think they've told us.
Okay.
I don't think they've said it out loud.
That I was an idiot and we knew. Because I keep on thinking that, and I'm like, oh, they must say it soon.
Another thing about
they
series,
must have said it.
Another thing about series is they're for the OPA. The OPA have a residency there, and the police don't mess with them.
No.
That was another angle as well. If I had to guess, I would imagine there's something like planetary alliance of some sort because they make it outer, probably because they make it a point that they're a group that is spread throughout the outer regions of space and that they are like a coalition of force. I want to know,
but I don't want to Google because I don't want to risk
no spoilers.
Spoiling myself.
No spoilers. But Anderson Dawes is the head of this particular section of the OPA. In all honesty, for the basic functions of the story, he is the head of the OPA, right? He's the head guy. And Jared Harris, delightful. Every single line was a joy. Brilliant.
That accent.
Yeah, Afrikaans mixed with a little bit of British and American in there. A real mongrel accent going on there. Just a hybrid of things. He's traveled around.
In a deliberate kind of way.
Yes.
Not in a messy sort of way. It's not like he's changing in between those accents, it is a blend of them, which is so impressive.
He's a skilled actor. He's one of my favorites. I've loved him since, I don't know if this is the highest of things to raise, but ever since that second Sherlock Holmes movie where he played Moriarty, he's been on my watch list. I just have been drawn to that actor. I really loved him in that movie, and everything I've watched him in since, he's always hit it out of the park. And Anderson Dawes is a really cool character because he's playing an angle. He's like Christian, where everything is a game to be won. He hears Miller's case. He goes, oh, you're looking for Julie Mao. He clearly knows who Julie Mao is, but he's playing it off like he doesn't. And he's playing like this fake emotion. Oh, don't say that. I'll get choked up. And what he's doing is he's peddling his stuff. He's greasing the wheels. He's trying to get Miller to side with the OPA, maybe even recruit him to the OPA. And it's a scene that gives us a lot without saying too much. That's also why I was drawn to it out of the Miller side of the story. Is there's lots of subtext going on here. There's lots of things underneath the table that they're playing with, rather than just laying all the cards out in front of us.
It's a very tense scene for what is not being said.
And when it comes to the OPA, they are very much emphasized in the episode. I just want to go through them a bit more in terms of your feelings on them and just your understanding of how they operate in this show now. Because in the first two episodes, they very much left it blank. Even now, you're like, what's their initial stand for? But you get a bit more of an ideology to them in this one.
Yeah, they're presented in an interesting way. And for me, as an Australian, okay, who does know some history, who does know some American history, they read like in a very similar way to Black Panthers.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because they're a outlandish group who some are supporters of, believe in the cause and believe in the way that they're going about the cause.
You can see why it exists.
There are also others that label them terrorists.
Militant.
And the truth probably lies somewhere in the grey.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think of when I'm trying to kind of think of what is the OPA and what do they mean? So it's like our insiders want change. They want their group to be represented and to be treated fairly. And they're not getting that, so they're willing to go outside of acceptable or moral ways to do it.
Violence.
Because that's the option that they think will work, or that's the last option that they feel like they have.
They are an organization, like I said with Black Panthers, say, or like I said previously, the IRA, where you can see why they exist, what they're fighting for. You can even have a somewhat sympathetic edge to it because they're fighting against civil unrest and they are fighting against discrimination and for freedom, but they have crossed over a certain line where you can no longer support that group, that organization, because they're terrorists, because they're bombing, they're shooting, they're killing, they're harming innocents in order to get their message across. And it's very grey and very murky, and I really liked how he came in as Mr. No, don't hurt this guy. We aren't for violence. Remember, everyone, we're friends, and we've got to motivate each other through understanding. If violence is needed, then we must, of course, do it, but please. And then when he's talking to Miller, he's very much, no, violence is the answer. We must do it because it is our way and it will get what we need to happen. And so there's that two-faced nature to Anderson Dawes, and I'm excited to see more of this character. He's instantly made Miller more interesting because also Miller being the gruff, the rules are the rules type guy, but also I don't give a shit about the rules, interacting with someone like Anderson Dawes makes Miller a more interesting character than having him chat with Havelock. Just this particular pairing is far more intriguing to me as a viewer.
I think that under that ridiculous hat, there's a belter yearning to find his way home.
Patron saint of lost causes. I'm all choked up.
We've reached this point where we remember the Cant. Of course we remember the Cant. How could you ever forget the Cant, Rachel? Never forget. But on our rating system of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good, to honor the moment of Yum Yum, where do you fall on Remember the Cant? No half yums. We're very binary in this way.
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's more good than bad. It's delivering on things that it's set up. I'm more interested in the characters now than I was at the start of the episode. It was successful in its structure on an episode level, but also on a season level. I have no major gripes. Like, anything that I have a problem with, I'm like, I'm okay with this for now. I might change my mind depending on what happens in the future, but for now I'm like, yep.
This is the growing pains era of a series where you're having to get accustomed.
Set up everything from scratch.
They're having to do that, and you are as well. I must admit that I loved this episode a lot more than the other two, but there were moments where I glazed over a bit or was overwhelmed with information and just the new terrain I'm exploring, but I give this a yum yum.
Yum yum.
I thought this was the first episode I would describe as actually good. The last one I gave a yum yum to, I gave it a soft yum yum, but this here is unabashedly a great episode of television. Especially for a first season, it was very good, it was coherent, it was exciting. I wanted to hang out with these characters more, get to know them more, and the biggest compliment is I want to watch the next episode right now. I don't want to have to wait another week to talk about it and watch it. I just want to do it right now. So that is where we fall on Remember the Cant. Now, we've already gone through some of our overall predictions for things to come down the road or our theories and thoughts on things. So I don't have anything else to add to that, but I would love to know what the title of the next episode is, if you have that in front of you.
CQB.
CQB.
Mm-hmm. No dots or dashes in between, just CQB.
What do you think it could be? What do you think this episode has in store for us? If you had to guess, what would you logically do to follow up this one with?
Well, there has to be, I guess, addressing Holden being held on the Mars ship. I feel that needs to be addressed by Earth directly.
If they know he's on there.
Yeah. Like, I feel like something needs to happen with that. Or, like, something else will move forward with Mars's push to get Holden to do another video saying that it's not Mars. Totally wrong. Not Mars. My bad. Take back seats.
Why is he blinking in Morse code like that? He's blinking. It is them. Weird. But his words are saying it isn't.
I want there to be something with the wreck of the Scopuli. I want to go back there. I don't know if we will. I don't think we will. But I'm interested to go back there because we haven't
played around with that.
Been there since we saw Julie.
Yeah, we don't know. That's another thing. I wonder if this will be an episode where we actually get to see anything of Julie more so, because the first episode did play it as a format of we could cut to her and have a weird thing going on we don't understand, but they haven't gone back to that formula. I'm thinking that the next episode is going to be the Martian ship playing a cat and mouse game, almost like Balance Star Trek, the original series Balance of Terror, with this unknown stealth ship that's chasing them. I think it could be a cat and mouse between these two. And what I want to know is if Havelock is dead, if he actually is dead, or if he's at least severely injured, how the security, how the police are going to react to that, because it is not only one of theirs that has been hurt and or killed, but he's also an Earther. So this could launch into an even greater full-on martial law, perhaps.
Are they going to try and cover it up?
Are they going to? Yeah, who knows? And are they going to try and go after those guys or not? I'm wanting to see how the powder keg here is going to explode even more, because it's already falling apart. And also, we didn't say it. I'm hoping to see those Mormons next episode.
The Mormons who do the comedy night.
They randomly threw in this Mormon thing. It didn't add anything to the episode other than that was a weird little moment. This must come back later.
Survive.
Fucking Mormons make it to space. No. Awful.
Hey, they think they get their own planet.
Yeah, sure. Great. Thank you.
Some Mormons, I should say.
Look, I don't know enough about Mormons. Don't want to know anymore. But if you want to...
fascinating.
No, don't say... Fascinating in a screwed up way? Yeah, probably right. Mormons are weird. But sorry if you're a Mormon and I've offended you. What can I say? Other than I'm not sorry. So if you want to find us on social media, you can under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Where can people email us at, Rachel, if they want to converse with us?
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
We have our Patreon, where we give these episodes over to the patrons first, as well as so much other content and even a group Discord that you can be a part of. So if you want to support the podcast, or if you're just wanting to consume all of our thoughts that we've gone through with The Expanse right now, you can head over to Yum Yum Podcast on Patreon. All of this is included in the description below. Spread the word around to all of your friends. Tell them, hey, there's this Australian couple who are watching The Expanse for the first time, and they have some pretty kooky notions. You should check them out. Let people know that we're here and that we're talking about science fiction TV. Check out some of our other discussions on other sci-fi shows. But that is all we have for you. Thank you all so much for listening. Rachel, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me, having to watch The Expanse, having to explore it with me. And guess who came back this episode? That random preacher guy, the one who the writer guy, he came back. We didn't say that explicitly.
Oh no, I referred to his speaker getting smashed by Miller though.
That's right, his speaker got smashed, and I was so happy to see him. That's my final statement. I'm happy to see that guy. Does he have a name? Will we learn it? Don't know, but I'm happy to see him.
See you then. Well, voila.